Quick little tip for anybody who followed my rib post the other night. If you're just cooking ribs for just yourself, you can do the exact same method with just a tiny piece of ribs. Because that rack of ribs was basically as long as my arm, I just cut off like the last 3 or 4 ribs at the very end so it would fit in my pan. Today I roast it the exact same way I did the other night. Just use like a little meatloaf kind of pan, 3 ribs, same exact method. They look awesome. So 450 for an hour with a half an inch of water covered, then uncover 325 for 2 hours, basting every 30 minutes. Hey everybody, it's been 24 hours for our short ribs, day 1 of 3. Just thought we'd check in and see what they're doing. So as I mentioned yesterday, we have it at 145 Fahrenheit in our vacuum sealed bags, and they're just floating around in there. So we're going to hold it at 145 for 72 hours, and I don't know if you can kind of see too, there's a little juice, but not a lot in the bag. That's one of the big reasons why I like sous vide cooking, so let's take a look at the protein diagram. Your and my favorite, we have our protein diagram. Black lines are protein, squiggly lines are connective tissue, and the blue blobs are fat. Traditionally, when you cook in your oven, you cook the outside in, so the outside gets cooked the fastest and the middle takes the longest, so you can see there's still blue in the middle and still squiggly lines. The problem is when high heat is applied, the outside gets cooked longer and hotter than the inside, and you do all this extra cooking to the outside to cook the middle, which results in some really angry proteins that over denature, and then it squeezes out all the juice and water, which is your flavor. Not ideal. So this is where our sous vide machine and cooking at specifically 145 comes into play. For short ribs, at 145, we know we can melt the fat, the majority of the connective tissue, but we will not rupture the proteins and will keep all that juice inside our meat. So back to the original diagram, with the protein as lines, the connective tissue is the squiggly, and the fat is the blue dots. After 24 to 48 hours, we've melted all the fat, and we've just started to break down the connective tissue, which are the dots in the middle. So unlike our oven, with our low and slow in the water bath, we're evenly heating the entire piece of meat versus the harshness of the oven. So after the full 3 days, we've melted the connective tissue and the fat's gone, and all that's left are perfectly intact proteins which contain all of our flavor. So since we haven't broken the proteins, all the water stays intact, and that's where all the flavor is. Long story short, you can look online and find a bunch of blogs where nerds have already done all the science to tell you exactly which proteins break down at what temperature. So basically that's why the sous vide is a preferred method for some meats. When you know your temperatures, you can dial that in and keep the moisture and flavor intact in the meat. Outside of kind of using science to cook your food, there's some food service advantages and efficiencies that you can gain with the sous vide method too, which I'll talk about tomorrow night. I like to season my burgers just on the outsides for 2 reasons. One, because I'm lazy. My other thought is when you bite into something, the outside is what hits your taste buds first. So I think you can use a little less seasoning and have a higher impact because that's what you taste.